Hello and welcome to a kind new episode of the StudioMEcast. I'm your host, Peter Regan, joining you from StudioME. And if you like the look and sound of this podcast, well, you can book this studio space yourself at StudioME.me. We have a variety of studio spaces available, including our newest one, The Meetup, which is located in Oakland. So if you're on one of those campuses, we're just within walkable distances. Today, my guest is Davis Rohrer. He is a director and writer with a new film called Trial 54. It is a proof-of-concept short film for a feature that he is hoping to develop in the future, but it's a standalone film by itself as well. So, on with the show with Davis Rohrer. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here, Peter.
So I wanted you to be on my podcast because I saw the trailer for your new film, Trial 54. It was on one of the Facebook Pittsburgh filmmaking groups. I don't even remember which one, honestly, but it was up there. It had a cool, just look and sound to it, and then I remembered, I've actually met this guy. So it was a while ago. We met once. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, hey, I'll follow up. So I'm glad you're here. And so for your film, there's a lot of things that I'd love to talk about with it. And, even before getting into the, a lot of the time people start with the inspiration for the story and all that kind of stuff. But something that really, I guess stands out in the trailer is you have this location of this. It looks like an older abandoned space. All right. What's the story behind that space and the access to it? Is that what inspired some of this idea? How did this location come about for your film?
I wish you knew how many messages I got that were specifically about the location.
Really? Oh.
That is what everyone wants to know is like, where did you shoot this and how do I shoot there?
No kidding.
Anyway, the location, first off, it's the old like railroad house in McKeesport.
Okay.
Just another abandoned area. It's not on like an official film list. I had to use my investigative journalism skills I picked up through my other jobs to find out who owns the land. Who did they sell it to? It's not publicly known who owns it. Then I finally found the guy, and it turns out he thought the movie sounded pretty cool. He just asked if I believe the quote was, "You're not shooting anything satanic or adult, right?" And I was like, "I don't think so." He goes, "All right, then we're good. Just put my name in the credits." I'm
Not
like,
yet. Why? Do you want to fund something? Yeah, that's great. Well, fantastic. Well, yeah, it never hurts to ask, right? That's really cool. So one of the things that stands out in this film in general, I think, is you have this soundscape to it. Like, it really fits with the editing throughout the whole thing, not just the intro, but like it really starts with a lot of mindfulness for the audio with the editing. I know you edited this film. What was the process for, I know I'm going out of order here, but whatever. What was the process for, I guess, the audio when it came to like matching this with the edit? Was this stuff that you had in mind from the beginning of the film of how you wanted it to be? Was it something you found more in the edit? And did you work with a sound designer and all that? What was the process for you on that?
So the process with that was, and I'll actually try to answer your question. I don't think I answered the last one at all. But anyway, so first and foremost, I've hit this point, and I think every filmmaker does, the realization that the sound is going to be the thing that either, makes or breaks your film, right? So with knowing that and knowing I wanted to make a science fiction film, I then thought about all the sound I've heard in some of my favorite movies and how it just kind of lives in that atmosphere. So the first thing in the process was, okay, if we're going to spend money on this thing, we're getting a good sound guy. That was Chris Weissman. He's up in the Akron, Canton, Ohio area, and found him through the Facebook group. And I was like, okay, cool. We have rock solid audio, scratch audio, wild audio, all that. And he came through with the really crisp dialogue as we were fighting rainstorms and generators the whole time. Oh yeah, every shot you see in that teaser in the warehouse, there is actively that was when those tornadoes touched down in like the Greensburg area, I think.
Jeez.
And also we had like 2 generators outside. You heard them in every shot. But anyway, my process with that was like I did want to build that soundscape that felt very alive. It felt very like lived in the space, not so in your face about it, where the trailer might be pretty in your face about it. But, you know, when I think of my like Arrival, Children of Men, some of my favorite movies of all time, that soundscape is such like an inherent foundation to the film, to where the cinematography could look like shit, but it still feels so good. It feels so real. But yeah, from there, Chris was all the sound you heard, but then there was a heavy amount of sound work done in the edit. I did the edit for the film to include sound mixing and the sound design. I pretty much did most of post-production, aside from the VFX. That was Aaron Griffin down in West Virginia with Mountain Craft. And my biggest thing was making sure, like, you know, little raindrops coming down. How do we use sound design to hide some things we couldn't control on set? Down to, like, not a single footstep you hear is a real footstep. Those were all reapplied and all that. And so getting that layering done through all the scenes was pretty much the end of the process. And then worked with a composer, Mark Andrushko, who's down in Austin. And then from there, it was just, where can I add these little bits of sound to not feel like a punchy edit, but to feel like a realistic edit, sound that you wouldn't recognize.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned how it could allow for bad cinematography, but you didn't have bad cinematography.
No, we did not.
Nice look for your film, and you also had some really nice lighting setups, you know, with just, you know, some fun colors, tone, that kind of thing. There's a point in the film where there's a color change.
Yes.
Things go to red. Was that in camera, or was that on set lighting for that change?
On set lighting, all practical. I'll say first and foremost, thank you, by the way, for saying how good it looks. I say that because normally I'm the one DPing my own movies. But when it's time to hire a DP, I always call my good buddy Mikey D'Amico. He is the only person I've ever had as a DP on my films. He brings that polish I need. I'm a real dark, gritty, handheld, docu-style kind of person when it comes to filming narrative. But I'm like, if I need to make sure I got that sheen, that extra polish and eyes on it, I call Mikey.
And that was a cool choice to have, considering that a lot of the film takes place in an abandoned, grungy, graffiti-ridden place. But that gives it a cool mystique.
Yeah, and that when you said like the inspiration for the location, a big reason I wanted that spot is because I was like, the lighting is going to be immaculate here, to where we really didn't have to do much to support it. We did a little bit, but we thought we were going to have to bring in, like, you know, 1200 Ds and pump these massive lights through these exposed sources just to get our daylight. But honestly, all the room tone that's real natural ambience.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
what you're seeing on faces, you know, we had a couple Novas, we had some Astera Titan tubes to kind of, you know, get our key light, get our backlights, and just kind of like wrap that into the face a little more. But yeah, the ambience and like that subtle green shift you kind of see in everything. That's the location. Although it had some logistical issues with it being abandoned and like falling apart.
Right.
The lighting was the most convenient part of that entire location. That was a big reason why we picked it.
Fantastic.
And,
so, sorry.
You said the red shift. I'm doing a bad job.
And
of
I asked the question wrong. No, it's fine. I asked the question wrong because I said, was that in camera or on set? And those are the same thing. What I meant was that you changed the lights on set, or did you do that in post?
We had the Aperture Novas and a bunch of Aperture Infinity bars and like MC. It's just basically a bunch of Aperture lights, and we had that set as a practical effect, from just going from a daylight balance to what I called lightsaber red, because real red just felt a little too pink. Lightsaber red, you know, had that nice little, like, I don't want to say orange, but
it's warmer.
It's a little warmer. It's a little more vibrant. But yeah, that was on location. That was either Phil Atkins on the Sidus Link app, just timing out, and then you see that go off. And then in the house, we had either Mikey or our gaffer. You know, same deal. Just we timed it out. We acted it out. I would give him a tap on the shoulder, and then, you know, goes red.
That's good. Yeah, and it was nice because in those spaces you also were able to, you know, have the lighting where sometimes it separated the character from the backdrop, you know, and there are times when everything's awash in red, but it wasn't just that the whole time. You had those separations with the light, which I thought was nice. And, like, when I see that, I'm like, oh, that takes a little bit more time to make sure is that intentional. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So good. All right. Well then, now continuing on with color here. What was the color process in post? Did you handle that in the edit, or did you have a colorist?
So I was the colorist, and this was ironically the first ever project I did in DaVinci Resolve, from edit to sound. I literally bought DaVinci Resolve the day after we wrapped shooting, because I finally was just so sick of Premiere, and I knew what this thing needed a lot more TLC in the color. And then I, like, for the past like 5 years, I've heard DaVinci's so great, it's so much better, and I'm like, all right. And I'm an owner of 3 Blackmagic cameras.
And you didn't have DaVinci?
Okay, one was used. That didn't come with that. But then I've had the Pocket 4K and the 6K Pro. Could not tell you what I did with those keys. I think I downloaded it once like years ago, and then that laptop went into like the ether.
Yeah, it's sometimes you lose track of stuff. I was just reminded the other day about like Caltex or Celtex, or I can't remember the name. The old screenwriting software.
I think I still use it.
I have that on an old laptop that won't even turn on anymore. That like, and I had forgotten all about it.
That's where online gets you. That's where online gets you.
Yeah, when the last person I interviewed was talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wrote so much stuff in this thing and completely forgot it exists. You know,
I'm in the same boat. Yeah, but that got DaVinci. And then went right into the edit with that. And with the color process, essentially it was me learning how to do a very subtle version of a film stock emulation without looking like, you know, I think the whole nostalgic, grainy, very bloomy kind of look is very in right now. And I was trying to replicate more of when people like Christopher Nolan get their hands on film stock, that very strong Kodak look. So that's what I was going for in the color process. And that was just as simple as I had all my references. I just learned technique after technique about how do I get blue in the shadows but not wash blue out of their faces? How do I lift up the eyes and do trackers properly? And thankfully, we had such good lighting that everyone's values were very separated. Like the skin tones on set didn't wash into, say, the concrete on the ground or the windows or the other lighting. So it was actually pretty simple to just, you know, pick the spots I needed separated, and then bring those values out. But to be honest, just that Kodak look itself, I think it's honestly even just the LUT in DaVinci. It's like the Kodak 28, 30, 32. That carried probably 60% of the look.
Well, that's what it's there for, right? I mean, it's great when also you have a space like that, which you can pull color out of. Without just oversaturating everything. Like, I mean, if you want everything to be oversaturated, you know, like Mad Max or something, like that's great, you know. But it's cool when you have a space that maybe doesn't necessarily have that much local vibrant color, and you still get something out of it just a little bit. You just add something to the palette so that there's just a little bit more there, which I think is really cool. Well, that fascinates me then, that this was really a learning experience for you with DaVinci, and also with your I'm sorry, the name of your sound recorder again?
Chris.
Chris, who you hired for this as well.
Yeah.
You had never worked with Chris before?
Never.
Wow.
He is the only crew member I had never even met or knew of before. Total gamble, because word of mouth is how I found all the people I wanted to be on this film. Excuse me. I had like 2-3 coffees for you here.
Okay.
But that was when I put the ad out on the Pittsburgh filmmaking group, like the main one, I guess. I guess there's a main one. I don't know. It's like 5 of them. But
I think I'm on all of them.
I put that out, and I'm just like, hey, everyone, I know this isn't like the true day rate of a sound guy, but here's our budget we have for sound. If anyone is interested in this, you know, hit me up. Got like 7 responses. And then he hit me up, and he just showed me his reel. I'm just like, yeah, man, sounds great. He was super humble. Like, yeah, I got my Sennheiser 416, got my lavs. I use a Mixby 3, and you know, he was super humble. And then he shows up with the whole cart system, the wireless deity system with time code, and like all these different mic setups. And I'm just like, dude, you are way too humble about what you're capable of. You need to charge more.
Under promise, over deliver. I love it. That's great.
He was the antithesis of that. I knew that when he rolled up in the Tesla. I'm like, this guy's humble. This guy lied a little bit.
We'll get to also actors in a little bit here,
Okay.
but was there anyone else on the crew who you had never worked with before that was a part of this one? A crew or post-production?
So aside from the cast, of course, as far as crew is, there was only one, and it's ironically Mikey, the DP, his business partner and friend up in New York City, that they run Match Street Productions together, or Match Street Films. They do a lot of great music video work and branded content up in New York. Like they've done like ASAP Ferg and.
Whereabouts in New York? Like by
they're in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn?
Yeah,
okay.
right in Brooklyn.
Oh,
And
wow, fantastic.
Yeah, his name is Davey Robinson. I always like heard about him through like he's friends with all of my friends back from like Morgantown, West Virginia, where this film journey kind of started.
Oh, no kidding. I used to work in Morgantown.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Yeah, at a Boy Scout camp.
Boy Scout
That's
camp.
right
Okay,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I roughly know it. Yeah, roughly.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Camp Mountaineer.
Camp Mountaineer. Okay, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I lived there for like 8 years.
Yeah. Oh,
so.
fantastic.
But yeah, that was my first time meeting Davey, and him and Mikey have acted as this kind of dual cinematography group for a while. So like they pretty much come together to make the content that they make, and they're also the ones that brought their Alexa, they brought the Steadicam, they brought the 1200Ds, they brought the Titan tubes, they brought all that stuff. Besides that though, Chris was the only one I had. Our talk on Facebook was the first time we ever even knew each other.
Right. So this is a totally new person.
Oh yeah, everyone.
And it worked out great. So
it worked out fantastic.
Wonderful.
He was great. My soon-to-be wife is the one who. Thank you.
Great.
6 days.
Wonderful.
She was the one that actually said you should just put the list out and like just do it. Just do the Facebook. Don't worry about it if people think your rates are low. Just go for it. Somebody will want to do it. And she was right, and then that's how we found Chris. So, trying to think, because everyone else I know to some pretty decent capacity on the film. Even the cast, there was only one cast member I didn't know at all going into it.
Well, then we'll continue with some post-production stuff, or what's traditionally post. So music. All
yes.
Right. What's the process for that on this one? Did you how'd you work with the composer?
Yeah, I never put out an advertisement for a composer for this film because I wanted to make the music at first. I have this very niche dream of wanting to be the first person nominated for Best Director and Best Composer or Best Original Score. Wow. I don't know. It's just always been cool to me.
Has that never happened? Like, has
could have fooled me.
I mean, think of it.
I'll be honest. It's a dream I've never Google searched. If anyone else has done it, so if someone's done it, that sucks. Yeah.
Well, I know Robert Rodriguez does at least a lot of his own music.
Okay.
But I don't know if he's been nominated. Now that I think about it, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the funny part was, even though I never advertised out for a composer, for some reason, I think like short film and like indie film composers just like prowl on Indiegogo, because when I did the Indiegogo campaign is when I got like 12 requests for a film composer. Like, hey, I do this. Here's my Spotify. Here's my website.
That's really smart.
Yeah. They did, like, I never put on any Facebook group. I never put a text out to anyone. It had the only way it could have been possible is Indiegogo, and I think they literally just go on short indie films and like filter that search, and then they're like, oh, let's see who wants a score. And I'm
That's
like,
a great place to do it because it's people building budgets already, and a lot of people really want to work with a composer.
There's some decent talent on there, but there was one in particular that stood out because it wasn't through the Indiegogo. He was a friend of the main actor, Jack Erdy. He had produced and worked on a film that Jack's been on before, and he told me all about that. We got to talking about that. He showed me his like good use of like soundscapes and stuff, and I was like, you know what? The less I do on this film, the better.
Do you know Andrew Calvetti? Heard
the name, don't know the person.
All right, sorry. Thought that might be who you were talking about. Anyway, continue.
No, his name's Mark Andrushko.
Okay.
He doesn't live. He lives out in Austin.
Okay, cool. I'm from Texas. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I do love Texas.
Awesome.
Only been once. Only been to El Paso once.
I actually haven't been out to El Paso yet.
Well,
it's a big state.
Yeah. Everywhere's 5 hours away from each other.
Was it someone said for Americans 100 years is a long time, and for Europeans 100 miles is a long way.
Yeah.
So,
but Mark just kind of felt like a good fit for it, and the more and more I realized that I'm so used to being that guy where like I can just do it, but to understand the place I want to be in like my filmmaking career, like the more I can collaborate and the more I want to bring people on, the better it's just going to be, and the more I can let go and hyper focus on these things I really want to do, the directing, the writing. I still have my love for DPing, but even that in like 10 years I see fading so that I can focus on the direction. And bringing Mark on as a composer would just, be the next step of that. Let's get a composer. Let's not use Artlist. Let's not use some licensing software. And let's not have me hop into GarageBand or Logic or whatever and scrap up my own soundtrack. Let's get a guy whose job it is to make music.
Right.
And that ended up being a great move.
So for that, did you complete the film essentially and then pass the movie, the edit along, and then was it when it was fine cut? Was it when you had a first draft?
Picture locked.
Picture locked.
Once
okay.
Mark did not work on the film until it was picture locked.
Okay.
And I composed it out with a temp track, which I treat composers like actors. I'm like, no one works the same. So I'm just like, what is the best way for you? And he's a straight shooter. He's like, you just tell me exactly what you want, and I will work on that and give it like my little touch. And then if you don't like my little touch, screw it, we'll do something else. So I made my temp track to like, it's a bunch of like Arrival songs. There's like a song from Tenet, a bunch of other stuff like that, just to give it the vibe and essence. Then he took the inspiration. We went through about 2 different passes, I think, and then like a third final pass. But he didn't touch the film until he knew for a fact that nothing in that edit was going to change.
Right. Or
at least there was an advantage with me being the editor, knowing that if something was going to change, he had the guy with the time code right here. So we could make those adjustments as possible. But yes, picture lock was when he went on it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I also want to talk about visual effects.
Okay.
Something very near and dear and close to my heart.
Yeah.
So, and you have a bunch of, I don't want to say it, no, but you have visual effects in this.
Beep bops and doodads, yeah.
Yeah, like you got some like replacement screens. You've got some sparks, some other kind of like maybe hologram-ish stuff. I
got a fun one for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, what's that?
Well, yes, we did have like I called them beep bops and doodads for like the longest time, just like because that was like a little cheap piece of plexiglass we got off Amazon that we just had green tape on it. Right. And my buddy, he's done like UI style, like user interface style effects forever now, so that was too easy for him to do that. What is the limit of my language on this podcast?
Oh, you let her rip, man. There's no kids.
Okay, cool. So,
and buckle up, everybody.
This was so funny. It's not that bad, but like you saw, there was graffiti everywhere, right? Was not intentional that I picked a place with graffiti, but it was one of those things where we're just like, the more that we can sell in the lore that this is a derelict station that is no longer in use, that he's scrappy. Okay, cool. Graffiti works. The problem was very prominently in many of the shots and I'll tell you in the film. So the big push-in that starts it, and then any shot that you see most of the wall behind the main character of Jack is a big old bulbous graffiti that just says cunt.
Nice.
Right there. It is front and center. And I told my boy Aaron, dude, I'm like, listen, I could just eat this and just say it's rated R and just go on about my life. But if there's anything you can do about the giant cunt on the wall,
oh my gosh,
then by all means, do what you can. If not, it's okay. We will live our lives. But you know what? He did, and he made like a blue kind of like a swiggle graphic almost. Now that I've told you it, I bet you if you ever see it again, you'll never unsee it.
It's all right.
But it was so clean though. So he got rid of that. Was the biggest V effect. That was the hardest V effect because there's so many like moving shots where it pops up.
Yeah.
And he's got like, over Jack's face and over the shoulders of like him and the soldier at the end and stuff like that. There's also another piece of graffiti that says tits, but we're just like, it can stay. You know what? We got rid of that one. We'll stop when we're ahead.
Did you talk to the property owner at all about just, I don't know, spray painting a little something over it?
In hindsight, we probably should have just done that.
It's hard to think of everything.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing when you got line producers and like all these other people, right. And you're gonna miss stuff. And honestly, we got in there. Nobody knew that was there until I made the final rough cut, and then
oh my gosh,
that's when I noticed it. I was like, oh no, how did we miss this? But
I see.
But yeah,
man.
that was the hardest VFX because everything else was, just him having fun with like some digital stuff.
Yeah.
The grids going up the wall, a couple bullet holes going through the doors, sparks, stuff like that. Stuff that he, that's bread and butter for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fantastic. So, how many days of filming did you have?
3.
3.
3
for all the locations.
The whole kit and caboodle.
All right, cool. Including for the radio segment where you're.
Oh, you know what? Okay, you caught me. Add an hour.
Okay.
Because I literally just walked around Mount Washington. That's where I live. Just walked around there and just found stuff I wanted to film on my Ursa with I had some old Soviet lenses and just filmed a bunch of stuff that I would just fill in. Yeah. Never left the mountain to do it. Nice. And besides that,
it's funny how much of filmmaking, everybody's got at least a couple stories like that. Where it's like, yeah, I had to get a car pulling out of a driveway, so I just one Saturday morning just did it.
It's like a stakeout.
Yeah,
while you're just waiting for the right moment. But
it's just like a very localized, thing to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, and to be honest, those 3 days, we were on like a work schedule, so we couldn't stay there till forever. And of course,
so you didn't have any reshoots or pickups?
Negative, not a single thing.
Congratulations.
I mean, there was a line of phone dialogue we got after the fact. Besides that, there was no ADR.
Oh wow! Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
no voice replacement. It was just all going into the sound mix and just fine tuning it. Really, what camera fans, the generator, the rain, stuff falling from the ceiling, which happened more than it should have.
Jeez.
Which is why I don't recommend shooting in locations like that. But you do you. But it wasn't a true full 3 days for a few reasons. You care if I go on a little story time?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
so
that's what this is for. I love it.
What do they say? God tests the strongest soldiers. So some higher power must have known that Davis is finally making the short film and proof of concept of his dreams. He wants to make feature films, and he's finally making the first real step. He's got some awesome actors. He's got a tuned up script. He's got the crew. We got the lights, camera, lenses, all that. I get a call at 2 a.m. We have 6 a.m. call time for G&E and the crew. It's Davey. Yo, man, I don't want to freak you out, but Mikey, he got into an accident on the way coming in from New York. He a deer jumped out on the interstate, totaled the rental. He's a little shaken up, and it's we're just trying to figure out what to do. So me and my fiance we're waking up. We start doing chores to wake ourselves up because we're just we might have to go get our boy. First of all, we're like, okay, they said the airbag's deployed, so we're just we just hope Mikey's okay.
Yeah.
Screw the movie. We just want him to be okay. But then he, very fervently was like, no, we're good, man. I got to get to Pittsburgh. We're going to make this thing happen. I'm good. Yeah, the airbag went off, but I didn't get jacked up or anything. And I'm just like, okay, should probably still stop by a hospital, but okay. But he was 4 hours away still. That was insert hero of the day. Mikey's mom, Sheldy Amico, drove all the way out to somewhere near Philly. Got all the gear out of his car because he had all the gear too. That was the side plot to all this. He's got the camera, he's got the lights, he's got all that, and stuffed that in her car. Put Mikey in there, checked him out real quick. He seemed okay. Then he just still showed up to set. That did push us back from 6 a.m. to noon. Yikes. That was the first day.
Wow.
Later in the first day, the set flooded.
Oh.
As you can see, it was a slightly exposed area. We broke for lunch around 2 o'clock. We spent the time to set up, and we cranked through a lot of them sitting down, the easy stuff. Went across the street. The owner of the building was nice enough to let us use that building as bathroom, store gear, green room, lunch area. And as we're eating lunch, we just hear, we're just that rain got louder. Look outside, it's an absolute monsoon. Like I said, it was during those tornadoes that were touching down around Pittsburgh. We sprint across the street, drenched in praying to God the camera gear and like the lights and stuff aren't broken.
Right.
Do you know Phil Atkins?
I don't think so.
He's a DP around here. He's like awesome DP in his own right, fantastic guy, and he just kind of came out to help because he actually loaned me a few lights to use. And this dude is already over there just nonstop trash bagging everything. This guy didn't stop moving for like 2 straight days that he showed up on set. Like everyone's comment was, "Yeah, Phil, the guy with the beard, yeah, he never stopped working." Dude was nonstop, and he is just already on top of that. And thank God. And we must have been really smart out of nowhere because everywhere we had a camera or a light, somehow, some way, there was no water hitting it or large rain hitting it.
Nice.
The only thing that got destroyed was like a butterfly, like quarter diffusion sheet.
Okay. Well, if you were gonna have anything get damaged,
right? Not the Alexa Mini or the $40,000 lens camera set. Yeah.
Good.
Got lucky there. And then, of course, the next day, we were playing catch up from the day before because the next day was supposed to be a half day. So, was it 3 full days of shooting? Yes. Was it 3 full days of us actually shooting? God, no.
Right. Well, let's move toward talking about your cast.
Okay.
Here. Who would you like to start with?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So, the cast was primarily 3 people. We'll start top down, keep it easy. So, Jack Erdy. He is the lead. And see, it's so funny as I start. It's hard to talk about Jack without talking about the other 2 actors who are, 1, husband and wife, 2, own their own film company, Human Habits, who is the other executive producer on this film. They brought a lot of stuff together for this. And they are the ones that got us Jack. So I meet them for breakfast all the time. Mickey Miller is actually he's actually my team leader. I'm still in the Army National Guard.
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
and he's like in my line of leadership. He's the first guy, and he's also like it's like the first time I've ever had like a mentor in filmmaking because I moved to Pittsburgh, didn't know anyone, not a soul. Spent 10 years in filmmaking in West Virginia, some stuff in D.C., and a lot for the Army. Come to Pittsburgh, not a soul knows me. That's where Mickey comes in, because he lives in Pittsburgh. And him and Molly run that company, and then we were sitting at breakfast one day, and he goes, "I want to hear about Trial 54. Like, let's talk about it." I tell him about the main character, and he goes, "You know what? I bet you Jack might do this." I was like, "Who's Jack Erdy?" And they show me, of course, his clip from Mindhunter.
Yeah. Awesome.
I was like, yeah, it's so synonymous. Like, I almost feel bad because I'm just like, everyone's like, "Oh, he was a Mindhunter," and Mindhunter's like one of those prides and joys of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not just. I mean, like it's a dynamite scene.
It is. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. That was the first serial killer they interview, right?
I don't think he's the first one. No.
Okay, then I might have told like 20 people the wrong thing then, but that's okay.
Yeah, but he stands out a lot because he sort of this is my recollection of it, but they've interviewed at least 1, maybe 2 other people, and then they interview Jack Erdy's character, and he's completely different from all the other guys they've talked to, and it's almost like they think they're finding a pattern, and then it's like, who the heck is this guy? And it's just like, definitely, if people haven't checked out Mindhunter Season 1, check it out. And, David Fincher directed it. How bad can it be, honestly? So there's, and also, like, everybody I've met in Pittsburgh worked on it in some way.
That was like all hands on deck.
Yeah, I didn't get involved with it. I think I was working, like, had a marketing job at the time, and every other person I met, "Oh, you're on Mindhunter." That's I saw them filming. They were filming like right outside where near where my job was at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like I could have gotten involved in some minor way, like just
for sure,
PA extra, whatever, something like that. Missed the boat on that one. But,
damn.
I'm still meeting people who were involved with it. So crazy.
I mean, it's Fincher Netflix production. That's
brought a lot of work in.
Oh yeah.
So,
but
anyway, yeah.
No, yeah.
But that's how you got.
That's how we got Jack. Yes, Jack and Molly reached out to him. They've worked together on like a lot of theater plays and stuff like that. Jack was on with Outsiders and American Rust.
Right.
And Molly had a good role in American Rust, and she had a smaller role in Outsiders, I believe. And Molly also had that working relationship with Jack. And then it came to, I finally got to meet Jack. Great guy, funny dude.
What was it like meeting him? Did you like on the phone first? Did you
Zoom call? We did. We like had a little group chat with Mickey, and we just eventually set up like a Zoom call, just to like chat it out, just to like get a feel for each other, see if he actually even like the script, because I wasn't gonna start like giving him notes and stuff, because I'm like, we don't even know if this dude wants to be on it yet. But then after a week of reading it, he goes, I like the script, I love Mickey, I love Molly, let's do it. And I was like, sweet, we got our guy.
Nice.
And then it even came to me that I've seen him in other short films before. And I was like, wait, this is the same dude that was in Shot of Irish and I think Tick. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so I've seen this dude before.
Shot of Irish is Andrew Calvetti's film. So
okay, cool. Because I know I don't know him, but I know the DP for that one. That's why Evan Borsier. Mikey's worked with Evan Borsier before in like commercial work as like an AC. So like, film world is small.
Yeah.
Everything comes full circle at some point. But that's pretty much Jack in a nutshell there. And then he and I, constant collaboration. If you want to talk about an actor that has extremely thoughtful and constructive and just very well processed notes about a character and what they say, Jack is the like dictionary example of that. Like he did his homework for a character that I made and brought things to my attention where I was like, you know what? You're onto something. Then there's Molly, who I like to say was like the shared lead. Killer, absolutely killer. I've known Molly, never got to work with Molly as an actor, and the most I saw was whoever made her acting reel did her dirty, because it's all like her scenes in American Rust. It like not her variation in commercial, other dramas as a voice actor. She's a killer voice actor. But where Jack brings that kind of sinister, kind of that aura that the film has from the dramatic level, Molly brings that realism that makes it feel less of a science fiction film and more of just like, this is just a gritty drama. And Molly brought such a nuance performance that I was like, damn, it's not really a spoiler, who else could do a scene where she has to dance by herself and pretend that someone is there? And the way she did it, I'm just like, Molly's absolutely killer actor. Like I said, she's Mickey's wife, so she was already on the project as an executive producer. Then she was like, I will also act.
Phenomenal. Now, there's a point in the story where the two characters have an argument. We hear a lot of that in it. Was that argument written or was that improvised? How did that...
Which part? The with the soldier?
No. Between Molly and Jack.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's mostly audio. I mean, like you see some of it, but it's like...
How do I say this without spoiling? It was like kind of handheldy. It was like all improv. Okay. I gave them a context sheet. I essentially said, here's what you're arguing about based on like the character booklets I put out, because I gave them all a backstory. Because I may not spell it out for people in the script or the story, but my actors will know everything. They will know to the T what the back lore is. And that's what they ran with. I basically told them, at this point in your guys' life, this major event happened with a family member. And you have hit a breaking point in something. I don't think I spoiled anything.
No,
Cool.
I think you're good. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. No, I think you're... No, I don't...
but yes, what they actually said was completely on them. We did like 2 takes of that. And they just popped off for like 5 straight minutes. And then we were just like, rad, we're good. We had them do here's exactly what we did. We said, do a version where you guys are like talking in a way you don't want people in the house to hear, and then do it in a way where you're just screaming at each other. And then we kind of intercut those 2 performances.
That's a good direction. Yeah, I like that.
I'm a big fan of that technique. So.
Yeah. Now, for the 2 of them, when they have their shared scenes, all right, what because you said they already knew each other.
Yes.
Right.
And honestly, don't worry too much about spoilers, man. It's
No, I mean like the actors already knew each other.
Oh
is
yeah,
what-
yes, they have worked before. Mickey,
Right.
Molly, and Jack have all worked with each other before, so
cool.
they kind of already had an inherent chemistry that already came on set, which
Sort
was
of that
very nice.
Sort of not secret language, but they can get a lot
They-
done without saying.
They
too
very much
about it.
worked off each other. Like
Right.
often was Jack and Molly would have notes with each other, and then they would come to me, be like, "Hey, we were talking." Same with Mickey, him and Jack's scene, they talked about a lot, and they're like, "Hey, Jack and I were talking. We think there's some really cool world building improv that we could do here." They told me that, and I just said, "Go for it. It sounds great."
Very cool.
Yeah, they very much had that chemistry before ever starting.
Great. So tell me, we've talked a bit about Jack and Molly. Tell me a bit more about Mickey.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Mickey was our line producer, or Johnny on the spot, jack of all trades guy. If somebody, he was the one bringing breakfast, he was the one bringing the coffee. He was also the one doing all of our paperwork, getting this film kosher, getting Jack, setting up everything as far as like requirements. He was very much a producer. And then his acting part was supposed to be me. But then I was like, you know what? I don't think I look the part. And I think I'm at this stage where, yeah, it's cool to act in your own movie, but I felt better if I could just hug the monitor, pay attention to performance. I think acting is fun. I think it's pretty cool. But I wanted to just focus on, like, why am I here? Why is Davis here? He's here to direct this film and eventually edit this film.
And that seems like that was a pretty consistent choice you made throughout a lot of this production, with getting someone else to do the music, getting someone else to hold the camera.
Yes.
You know, even though these are roles that you have held yourself on other projects, you're looking at this project as like a step toward wearing fewer hats,
right?
So
and
that you can focus on
you
it.
get to let other people, like, who are in their defined profession, really sing. Whether that's Mikey as a DP, whether that's Stefano being the AC and gaffing, whether whoever it was. And Mickey is a trained actor. He went to New York for acting. He's done stage plays, he's done commercials, he's done film, he's done all this stuff. So it only made sense for, like, he didn't have the time to digest the role as Molly and Jack, which was a shame. So I did him dirty like that. But to just be able to, the day of, like literally an hour before we did the thing, I was like, Mickey, this is going to sound awful. But can you slap on this vest?
Yeah.
And like, he's in the military, so he's like, oh, I always play the I always play the ethnically ambiguous paramilitary guy. So I was like, all right, bet. Here is your vest. Here is a gun. Not real. Jesus, not real guns on the set. My God. But he took the role in stride, and he memorized those lines like the day of, and just kind of rocked it. I wish, if there was one thing I could have done, it would be, back when we did the table read, I should have just given the role immediately to Mickey and let him digest that and create his own character, rather than just deliver solely off my spot on notes. That is the only thing I wish I did differently in this entire process.
Well, I mean, ideally, there's a lot of things that happen before you start shooting, but filmmaking is a process. Sometimes the goal isn't to get it right on the first take. Sometimes the goal is to find the scene, and in this case, part of it was finding the actor for it as well. So it worked out, right?
Yeah.
So, hopefully it's not too big of a regret, because
Okay. It's only a regret that I didn't put Mickey in a better position to succeed. But then you got to think, dude, just think about it. He got that role an hour ago, and he still showed up and like did great. He was riffing off with Jack. Without him being in that role, we don't have some of the performances that we saw in that scene. And then him just giving because the bad military security guard can be such a tropey kind of role, and what Mickey brought was authenticity. He brought believability, in my opinion.
Cool. Well, so the film's done now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
what are your plans for this film? Because it's a proof of concept for a feature that you want to do.
Yes.
Are you planning on taking this to a bunch of festivals? Are you showing it to a bunch of potential investors? Both? Do you have a plan at this point? Is it just get it done? What's your idea?
We had a plan before I even wrote the thing.
Oh, that's wonderful news. Fantastic.
Because this was like, I had three ideas of if I did my first feature film, they're either going to be this, they're either going to be this, or they're going to be this. And I fell back on sci-fi because I'm like, wouldn't it be really cool if somebody saw our ambition for no money? And it worked. Mm-hmm. So the plan for Trial 54 is, first of all, that's not the name of the feature.
Okay.
The short film itself, I call a augmented version of the second quarter of the feature.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. It's not a short version of the whole film.
Correct.
It's part of the...
Yes, it's kind of Whiplash, but if Whiplash also tried to tie in a faux ending. With that said, the plan is we are going to, put it into festivals, but I'm trying to be careful. I want to make sure it goes into festivals where, people are going to see it. It's going to engage people. It's going to bring up the idea of like, hey, imagine if we gave these guys like a production budget to actually, shoot for a month, make a feature, make it happen. And right now, we've submitted to a handful of festivals right now. We're still waiting on some other ones to come back up because we kind of picked a weird time to finish the final because a lot of the bigger festivals' deadlines were passed. So we might have to wait a little bit. But, there's your Pittsburgh ones, there's West Virginia ones. There's first one is October, first week of October. That's our first acceptance, official selection.
You've been accepted for
yes,
it? Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful.
We're in one. We're in one so far.
Wonderful.
Still waiting on the others. No no's yet, so that's cool.
Oh, that's a great start. Nice.
And then
for a 17-minute film,
yeah,
it's pretty good because it's sometimes harder to get the longer ones into a film festival lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many things that go into what is selected. For film festivals are getting more submissions than ever, and then some of them are trying to build a program that's like, hey, we want to put a good show together, and we've got too many serious ones. We need a funny one. It could be for any.
Right.
It's
an event as much as it is a competition.
Yeah, and there's a billion little decisions from a lot of different people that can just any one of them can make it just be a no for nothing that had to even do with you. And sometimes it's like, oh, someone just beats you out, sure, but it's still such a great. Getting into pretty much any festival. Like, did you submit on Film Freeway?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anything there, it's like you're already just competing with so many other people.
Oh, yeah.
It's wonderful when you get acknowledged.
It
like
is,
that.
because like in my past short films, it's a lot of onesie twosies. Like I've never had a short film be like, oh, I got into every festival. No.
Right.
It's never going to happen. But oh yeah, it feels awesome to get a selection, and I'm hoping for this one it'll get more. Just because of it's the full crew experience. It's the biggest one I've ever made, or we have ever made for that matter. The rest of the plan involves how do people see this in 2024 and early 2025. We are with a couple stipulations because we have some things in the works right now that might change these dates, but we want to go to every city and state that had a department head or one of the cast and crew, rent out a theater, pay a small ticket for people to come watch the short film, see a not really director's cut of it, but see the full behind the scenes doc that we only made available to people who paid on Indiegogo, a chance to have a Q&A with who can show up, director, actors, whatever. But also show off a little bit of pieces from Mad Street and Human Habits to show you, hey, here's the talent that we brought in. Here is the Six Shop, which is the name of my company. Here's the film. Here's behind the scenes docs. So you are the ones that get an exclusive inside look of what this looked like. And then you talk to us, and then we leave a website code for here's ways you can support us making the feature. Because that's another big thing we're doing. And I learned this from, the Neighborhood Film Company.
Rings a bell, but I'm
not. They're a group out of Philadelphia, and they did Concrete Cowboy.
Oh,
the Concrete Cowboy. They made The Cage, this awesome banger short film, fantastic short film. But they always said, it never mattered that their short film got 50,000 views or 100,000 views on Vimeo. What mattered is that there were 2 people that saw it and really saw it and engaged with it, which led to them doing Concrete Cowboy. So I'm trying to put Trial 54 in a space where I don't care if 1 million, okay, obviously it's really cool. I don't care so much if 1 million people see it. I care that, one, people just see it in general, but that, you know, the right people see it and engage with it so that we can get that blanket out further. Because the ultimate goal is right now, yeah, I know I said it's kind of like coy to say, like, I don't care if 1 million people see it, but there will be a point where I do want 1 million people to see it. Because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell stories. I'm here to get people to engage, to escape for a moment, and then ask themselves, what does this different reality look like when presented on big screen? So putting ourselves in that position to do these private screenings, do these like kind of dine-in things where we're going to cook for people and show them the film.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, stuff like that. So
it's
that
like you're
way,
taking your film on the road.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like
going.
band.
You know, I keep telling people the film's going on tour. That's what I keep
it.
telling
Yeah,
people.
that's on tour. I love
and
it.
it's just a cool way of like, hey man, you guys want to see this thing while it's on the festival circuit and it's kind of closed off? Come to this thing, hang out with us, see it on the big screen, and that way you're not waiting until just like winter of 2025 or whenever the festivals are all done that we put them in.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. Well, that's, yeah, I hope you get the right eyes on it, for sure. I mean, hopefully a lot, but also the right ones.
Yes.
You know, the ones you're hoping for.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I hate saying it like that, but it's like,
well, no,
man,
I mean, look,
it's the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, a lot of the time artists can be squeamish about business, and film has always been associated with business, you know, from the very beginning, even before it was telling stories. And that's something that I've kind of come around to thinking, realizing, like, the logistics and the business are part of the art form. You know, it's like we want to be like, the filmmaker that's like, this is what I'm putting on screen, you know, but part of that is this other stuff. It's not just like, I don't see it as just like an unfortunate means to an end anymore. I'm like, oh, this is part of what I love, you know? And so, and it's funny because a lot of, I'm not talking about any particular film programs out there, but there's the whole side of the business that a lot of people don't hear about or aren't taught, or doesn't get as much, you know, screen time on behind the scenes stuff, which is the business side of it, how you pick a film that is viable or marketable and all that. And it's such a like vital, important part that also is very separate from a lot of other art forms that people pursue, or at least in the way that, like, I mean, the whole business side of it can be a part of any art form. You know, like if you're a painter, that can be a part of it. But you can also be a painter who's just, the whole thing is just the painting. That's it. You know, more and more people are able to do that with film, which is exciting because it used to be the only people who made films were making films that were in theaters, you know, pretty much. It's like that's where most of them was the mainstream thing. As filmmaking becomes more accessible to everybody, to where pretty, like at this point, anybody can make a film.
I agree.
There's a guy in Uganda who killed Captain Alex or something like that. That's the name of his film. This guy lives in a village in Uganda, and he makes bricks that he sells for a living. And the people in his village make movies because they love movies, and they didn't think anybody outside of their village was ever going to see these things. And one of them like became a hit online, you know.
Lo and behold.
Yeah, and it's like you look at what this guy's working with. He built his computer out of trash. He doesn't have enough hard drive space to keep his files from previous films, so all his films are gone. He doesn't have the footage anymore. He just has copies of DVDs, you know. And it's like, if that guy can make over 30 feature films, you know, it's like regardless of any production value or whatever he has access to and all that, it's like he's still making movies. Oh yeah, all right, because he loves it. And it's like, yeah, how much accessibility we have for film now is crazy. And how much every year it advances is very encouraging. And,
yeah, man, access, passion, ambition. I mean, that's like, because this movie didn't cost us that much. It sounds like like it took like a bunch of money because like I'm telling you like the gear that we had on hand and like the locations and all that
and the budget and like the raising funds on Indiegogo. Yeah, sure.
And I'll tell you this, man, and this is something I kind of like to have as like because everyone always asks how much does this movie cost, and I tell them $4,000.
You did well with your money on that.
Granted, the value of it, sure. If I were to calculate what it costs for an Alexa Mini package with Cook Speed Pancros, with a Steadicam, with, these lights, this small grip package, whatever. The ones who didn't take, sweat equity. Sure, this thing, we're talking way more money. But when you got people like that in Uganda, people in a little neighborhood in Pittsburgh making films, sometimes it's easy to forget the value in the relationships you've made over the years. And my relationship with, say, Mikey, that is a treasure trove of value right there. One, he's one of my closest friends. Mm-hmm. That's for starters. That's what's most important. But also it's like, because we have that relationship, because he has that trust in what I can do and I have that trust in what he can do, we're not talking no more about what does it cost to rent an Alexa Mini, the Cook Speed Pancros, the lights and all that. It's just now passion. It's now we have that faith in our willingness to bring our resources together and make the thing happen, because now it's no longer a dollar sign. It's just the passion itself. So yeah, sure. Somebody could look at Trial 54 and be like, oh, well, the value of it's like, 20 whatever K, but there is way more value in what the people bring in the relationships you make. Mm-hmm. And that is something I think a lot of people just lose sight of sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, that's 10 years of like friendship I've had with Mikey. And then that's $1 million right there in the budget. So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well put, I must say. Well, fantastic. So now for this feature.
Yes.
Have you completed the script for the feature yet?
Yes.
Completed, drafted, whatever.
It's semi-readable.
Yeah.
The hardest part, man, is like, dude, writing a feature, it's just work. It's just, there's no flowery way to describe it. I mean, you write a short film, you can compact all these great moments into a really succinct experience. The problem I have with writing features, and I've written 3 fully built-out feature films at this point. Ironically, Trial 54 is kind of sort of honorable mention one of them, because I have such a hard time perfecting the little, I know this big plot point, I know this big plot point, and I know how it ends. Oh, I knew how it ends the minute I put pen to paper. What about the transitional parts, the slice of life parts, the parts that get us there, that not make it feel like, oh, we just have to write a scene of them walking down the street, or we have to write the coffee shop scene to, transition. Right. It's giving those things. That's the thing I'm working on now. It's giving those little tidbits value that support the ending. That's my big thing right now, because I don't want to be like, well, we got to have a shot of him walking down and saying this line. It's like, no. If it doesn't support the theme or the ending, we're just not going to do it. With that said, it's readable to a point where if I took it to a festival and someone said, what is this thing? I can say, here you go. But it still needs work. I foresee another year until this thing finally comes to fruition. Oh, man, I even did like the cost estimate, and I'm like,
Well, you're going to be busy between now and then with taking it on tour.
Hopefully.
Just drawing stuff. Finest water from the fountain. Anyway, so, well, with that time, are you planning another short in the interim?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I do a lot of documentary, as well as narrative.
I remember talking to you about that when we first met.
Yeah. They were, because I think I was doing my basketball doc at that time. But I've also started a West Virginia football documentary as well. That's a massive endeavor.
Like WVU football? Oh,
like,
cool.
Like big enough of endeavor where me and a business partner of mine decided to go half and half on a Sony Venice. And then like an FX6 and like a couple other Sony rigs. And like that's now like our main squeeze cameras to essentially make something that we could pitch to a larger company or self-distribute. But yeah, it's big, like 60 interviews.
Wow. Is this a feature doc or is it a series? What's
four-part series.
Four-part series. Wow, fantastic. Have you ever done a feature length, like a single feature length doc before?
Not a doc. I've done 1.5 feature films on the crew side. I DP'd a feature film. I DP'd all the flashbacks to another feature film, and then as far as like hour-long products I've made, but as far as specifically a feature documentary, no. The longest documentary I've made is 20 minutes. With that said, we have this one planned out. It's actually him that's editing it. I'm mainly the DP and cam op, and I'm going to do color for it as well. But that will be my first feature doc, unless it gets beat out by the one I'm doing in November, which is another feature doc about a basketball team out of Ward 8 in Washington, D.C., who has championship potential. Are you familiar with Ward 8?
No. Sorry.
It is the pinnacle of like crime, carjacking, gun violence in Washington, D.C. And last year, Washington, D.C. was like rated the murder capital of the U.S. Yeah, the numbers are crazy there right now.
Jeez.
But it's essentially following these kids that go through a program called Free Lunch Academy. Shout out my boy Justin real quick there. But he has a team that, they could play at the collegiate level, and they're like, 14 years old? And we're going to follow them and see one of the first champion teams to come out of Ward 8 at that age group. But stuff like that. And then, of course, other shorts. Yeah, Mikey likes to ask me all the time, hey, man, we should do another short. He's not even asking. He's like, hey, man, we should just do another short. Just keep them going. And I'm extremely tempted. And if the timing's right, yeah, I would totally. We're probably going to make another big short film before anything comes new of Trial 54.
Gotcha.
Probably another sci-fi, because sci-fi is kind of my thing right now.
Yeah. Would you go for a different, like, you might not know the answer to this right now, but would you go for a different tone in sci-fi than what you did with Trial 54? Or do you like that more suspenseful, serious realism angle?
Oh, I'm a dark boy when it comes to the presentation of my films. Which is funny because I am not like that in real life. Like if I go out to the bars with my friends, they get shocked that I keep writing stuff about dead family members, broken relationships, people on the brink. And they're just like, dude, you need to write a comedy. I'm like, I just don't know how to write them. I'm just a goon when I'm out in public. But
it's funny. It's like Peter Jackson, who's like, I think he's borderline hemophobic almost. Like like. There's a story of Sean Astin playing Samwise Gamgee on Lord of the Rings, who got his foot cut open when he stepped into the river.
Yeah.
And he had like a big blood clot fall out, and Peter Jackson's like, And also John Rhys Davies has the tip of one of his fingers is missing.
Yeah.
And so they put a gelatin false finger there, but then they filled it with blood and had him like cut it open to prank Peter Jackson with it. And it's like, medic, we need to get a medic. And it's like, this guy's made the goriest movie ever made, and some other ones that are contenders.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's interesting.
Yeah,
sometimes that happens.
You'd be amazed at how heavy some of that stuff got, but like we had a blast on set. Minus, of course, the grievances of filmmaking itself on a time frame. I mean, it was a blast. But yeah, I am. That contrast is so funny. Like the things that inspire me are so fucking dark. And here I am. Like I was in elementary school and I was like, I want to watch Children of Men. And that's my favorite movie of all time. Who the hell in elementary school watches Children of Men and says that was amazing? I was like in the third grade, I think, when it was like 2006 when it came out or something like that. I might have that wrong, but
it's around that time,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Where everyone's like, they want to watch like friggin', they want to watch sports movies. They want to watch, Rocket Power or something like that. And I'm like, no, I want to watch Children of Men and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
I want to watch the beach scene again.
Yeah. Children of Men is such a cool movie.
Oh, dude, I could go on for a long time about that movie, man.
Well, perhaps next time when we have you on. So
I'd be down. I'm gonna put this out because I would be remiss if I never mentioned my assistant director in a way. If y'all want to see it in its global premiere, there's a little thing called the Mountain Craft Film Festival in Clarksburg, West Virginia. It's a big old It's turning out to be a big old festival in West Virginia. So if you want to see it, it is the first weekend of October, 3rd through the 6th. So if you want to see Trial 54 and get an acting workshop from Jack Erdy, come by. It's being run by the first AD of the film, Jeff Bogus. So if you want to see the film for the first time, there's your option. Besides that, I post on Instagram. We'll be posting updates. If you want to follow me on Facebook, but I would say Instagram is the best landing page right now, and then 6shopfilms.com. And of course, you follow Mad Street Films and Human Habits if you also want to kind of see what's up.
I've enjoyed this conversation a lot. Thank you very much for being my guest.
Of course, pleasure being on here, Peter.
Hello, gentle viewers. Thank you for joining me for this latest episode of the StudioMEcast. And if you liked the look and sound of this podcast, well, you can book these studio spaces yourself at StudioME.me. Don't forget about the meetup in Oakland. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your life, however long or short it may be.